We don't do it for the glamour, for the glory, or the shiny trophies. We don't do it for the perfect moments, for the easy jobs, or the immaculate outfits. We do it for the love of this life, for the love of equestrian. We do it for their gentle touch, the warm breath on our necks, the scratches and the cuddles. We do it for the kisses, the sea spray on our faces, the shared treat at the end of a long day. We do it for the smell of the tack room, of horses being shod, of rain on the grass before we head out. We do it for the sound of heartwarming greetings, hoofbeats and birdsong on an early ride, celebrations when things finally click. We do it for that special feeling when we're flying across the country and floating through the sky. We do it for that little knot of excitement, the surge of power and adrenaline, the belief that together we are unbeatable. We do it because it's our passion, because we've always done it, and we always will. We do it for the love of this life, for the love of equestrian.
It's okay? So welcome to the FEI Online General Assembly 2020. As you can see, I'm here in Switzerland at the FEI headquarters with our Secretary General Sabrina Ibanez at my side and with our dedicated General Assembly team with all the recommended COVID-19 measures in place and socially distanced, of course. In the building, we also have most of the directors and heads of departments so that they are also available to answer any questions that may arise. We are a long way from South Africa, our original host for the FEI General Assembly 2020, but we are here together and we have a viable solution. So before I go any further, I want to thank the South African Equestrian Federation for their flexibility in these difficult times and for their willingness to postpone their invitation to welcome us next year for the FEI General Assembly 2021. I believe I speak for everyone when I say we are really looking forward to it, especially as we will also be celebrating 100 years of the FEI in 2021. Now back to 2020 and this extraordinary online edition. As always, and in a spirit of good governance, this General Assembly is being live-streamed for all stakeholders and members of the public. For our regular participants, such as member national federations, FEI board members and technical chairs, we have arranged special access rights so that they may interact as they usually would. This is not the ideal scenario, and it certainly does not replace an in-person General Assembly. But it does the job, and importantly, it allows our members to exercise their statutory rights and have their say on the future of the sport. This year has been incredibly difficult for everyone, both personally and professionally, disrupting every part of our day-to-day lives. We are still in the midst of a global pandemic, and the sport we are also dedicated to continues to suffer as do the many industries connected to the equestrian world. But this is also why we are here, to rebuild. And I firmly believe in our systems, our processes, and importantly, in the global equestrian community. Dialogue, communication, and transparency are key. And this year, there is no doubt we have had to compromise when it comes to our usual platforms, such as the Sports Forum, our annual in-person committee and board meetings, and now the General Assembly. However, we have found solutions to the restrictions we have faced when it comes to the decision-making process. And I'm confident we have the very best conditions for today's important meeting. Remote may be the new norm, but we tried to recreate the General Assembly week as best we could virtually. This is why we also offered the possibility to have virtual regional group meetings and why we maintained the rule sessions. It was really good to have seen so many of you during the group meetings and to have a real interaction. It was also reassuring to see our family in such an upbeat and constructive mood. I'm grateful and would like to thank all our national federations for their time and their dedication throughout this General Assembly process. Your commitment ensures we can take the important decisions we need to make as a community. We have kept the agenda for this virtual General Assembly as simple and efficient as possible, although there are still 39 points to get through. And we also made a conscious choice to focus on the decisions we have to take from a statutory perspective. As you have seen in the agenda, and in order to be efficient, we will, for specific reports and points, simply refer to the annexes that were provided to national federations on 26th October and that are publicly available on the FEI General Assembly 2020 Hub. And when it comes to questions and voting, we have grouped these in sections so that we maintain momentum and therefore present a set of topics, and at the end of each section, we open the floor to questions and then voting. Although today's General Assembly is virtual, there are still some important decisions to be made. Some are based around rules revisions and changes. This includes a big review of our anti-doping regulations for both human and equine athletes. Despite the COVID-19 restrictions, we have had a thorough consultation process dating back to the online sports forum earlier this year and more recently with the sessions on Saturday. Today, there will also be some important elections for FEI board positions. And further to the statutory changes we approved last year, the chairs of vaulting, para-equestrian and medical committees will be elected for the first time by the General Assembly and will become full board members. Regretfully, we also have to ask you today, in accordance with the FEI Statutes, to ratify the UAE National Federation suspension. This is not a decision the FEI board lightly, and we do not expect our members to take it lightly either. It's unfortunate that we have had to resort to the suspension of a national federation, but the FEI board was resolute and unanimous in its assessment of the case. As a community, we cannot and we should not allow individual national federations to apply the rules only as and when it suits them, especially when it comes to integrity and horse welfare. In the meantime, the Court of Arbitration for Sport has confirmed a suspension of 3 months for all disciplines and considerable fines, and we will ask you today to ratify the suspension based upon the decision of CAS. As a chain, we can only be as strong as the weakest link, and with your support, I do hope this suspension will drive change within the Federation and give rise to a new era for endurance in the UAE equestrian community. Regarding the reining discipline, we will not take any decision today. As you know, even after tireless efforts, we were unable to come to an agreement with NRHA to split the market and to allow the FEI to respect its own statutes and to be the sole governing body for a viable part of the reining discipline. We will continue to work with the FEI Reining Committee and the relevant national federations to see how we can preserve the legacy of FEI reining for the future, and we will report on this in the months to come. But before we delve into the proceedings and the voting, I do want to take a moment to address COVID-19, the repercussions on our sport, and the power of a united front. At the start of 2020, before the pandemic, we expected to have around 4,800 events on the international calendar, which is in line with our 2019 figures. In reality, and as a result of COVID-19, nearly 60% of those events have since then been cancelled or postponed, and we will more likely be closer to the region of 2,000 international events in 2020. This is the reality of the numbers. For some communities, such as vaulting, reining, driving, and paradriving, over 90% or even all of their international activity came to a halt after the onset of the pandemic. While for jumping, dressage, eventing, and endurance, the figures are still very alarming, with around 65% of all their events cancelled. The scale and the loss of events is a huge concern because it affects a large cross-section of our community and their livelihoods. For organizers, athletes and their entourage, owners, officials, sponsors, and the entire equestrian and connected industry, these cancellations are detrimental. I fully appreciate all the sacrifices and the hardships many have had to endure, and I am devastated for all the individuals and businesses that have suffered as a result of this pandemic. The postponement of the Tokyo 2020 Olympic and Paralympic Games sent shockwaves throughout the global sporting community. And although it was the right decision, it had many direct and indirect consequences. The complications for our calendar have been far-reaching and the source of much debate. And then there are the logistical difficulties for athletes, teams, and national federations in terms of preparations and gaining eligibility, as well as venue management and cost-saving measures for the organizing committee. This has been a tough balancing act, and of course there will be an impact and there will be measures in place of which we do not yet know the details. But I remain very confident that these games will go ahead, that our sport will have a wonderful platform. These will definitely be the games of hope. From the very beginning, our main priority at the FEI has been to mitigate the effects and find solutions to protect our community and our sport, so that we can not only pick up where we left off, but also learn for the future. This has been and continues to be our focus. It has also been and continues to be an incredible team effort. When news first hit of an impending pandemic in February, the wheels were set in motion. We immediately created calendar task forces with broad representation from all the stakeholder groups and technical committees to advise the board on specific measures that needed to be taken within each discipline. The medical committee, and in particular its chair, Dr. Mark Hart, also played a vital role and were enlisted to not only monitor the sanitary situation extremely closely, but also to advise and help us formulate the return to play policy. Effective risk assessment and guidelines based on the recommendations from the World Health Organization. We were quick to react, and time has shown this was very wise. We have since passed over 150 event and sport-related COVID-19 resolutions, which I appreciate are not always to the liking of all. But they have been the fruit of collaboration and consensus, and they reflect the needs of our community and our values. In this exercise, we always have to find a balance between needs for flexibility while still preserving the integrity of our sport and providing a level playing field. For our national federations, we applied some financial measures to alleviate the strain from the COVID-19 repercussions by waiving calendar fees altogether, applying a 50% reduction in annual fees, and more recently in September with the announcement of the FEI COVID-19 Relief Fund. Today, already 30 applications have been received and processed, and 230,000 Swiss francs has been transferred to national federations, and there is more to come. At the same time, we are also confronted with a 2/3 decrease in revenues for the FEI and a forecast loss of 8.2 million Swiss francs for 2020 as a result of COVID-19. We have worked hard over the past 10 months to keep this loss at a minimum, and alongside implementing many resolutions for the sport, we are also implemented a number of measures within the FEI, including a full review of all programs and projects, removing or postponing all non-essential expenditures in 2020. The placement of over 70% of the FEI staff on partial unemployment for an average of 30% of total working hours, thanks to the scheme offered by the Swiss government, and a unanimous and voluntary cut in salaries from all the FEI directors. These measures have helped to significantly limit the losses in 2020. As for 2021, you will have seen in the budget, we have projected a loss of 40% in our revenues, while continuing our efforts to reduce costs and end up with an estimated deficit of 1.3 million Swiss francs. Fortunately, we have always been conservative in our prognosis by underestimating revenues and overestimating costs. This has led to some very positive figures in recent years. And as a result of this, but also thanks to a robust risk management plan we started to implement a couple of years ago, we have identified and built up a strategic reserve. This reserve effectively allows us to absorb these losses and safeguard the organization for the future. The FEI, therefore, remains in a healthy position financially, unlike many other international federations in these difficult times that have had to resort to loans from banks and even the IOC. I also want to point out that we have maintained investments in areas that we believe are essential. The services to national federations and our stakeholders remain at the same level. We continue to invest in our digital platforms and presence, as this is essential to maintain our fan base and to remain relevant as a sport in this very competitive world. We continued to invest in FEI solidarity by maintaining projects that had to be postponed in 2020, by allocating new projects for 2021, and even increased our support with the creation of the FEI COVID-19 Relief Fund. We were and still will be faced with challenges we never imagined. And in a year where compromise, change and uncertainty have been the norm, I believe as a community we have responded with great resilience and diligence. A major crisis requires a major response, which in itself requires good governance and a true passion to overcome any obstacle in the way. This is the strength of our community and the building blocks to our future. I've been profoundly impressed by the resilience of the equestrian community when faced with adversity, and I am indebted to everyone that has contributed to finding or providing solutions this year. Without the expertise and hard work of our experienced committee and task force members, or the dedication of the FEI board who have devoted countless hours to meetings and deliberations, The resourcefulness of our national federations to assist their local communities and the understanding of FEI staff at headquarters, we would not be in the position we are today. And last, but certainly not least, I would like to thank our sponsors, and in particular our top partner Longines, for their loyalty during these difficult times. We have had an excellent relationship with Longines since we began our partnership in 2012. And I would like to take this opportunity to welcome new CEO Matthias Breschamp and wish the legendary Walter von Kennel, who has been in the industry for over 50 years, a wonderful retirement. Thanks to a shared vision on the unique qualities of equestrian sport and working closely with Longines Marketing Vice President Mathieu Baumgartner, Special Advisor Urs Schiendorfer, and Yannick Rosier, I'm confident we will continue to produce unforgettable events and engage our global fan base with top sport, great stories, and inspiring horsemanship. Thank you to everyone. This year has been a tremendous team effort. We were more than ever forced to think out of the box. We still have a lot to do when it comes to COVID-19. There is still a lot of uncertainty, but I believe we have a good system in place, we have the right people, and we are working around the clock to provide the very best conditions for our sport and our industry. The pandemic is not over yet, and even when vaccinations and medication will be available, the effects of COVID-19 on our community and industry will resonate for quite a while. We will have to monitor this and continue our efforts to provide the best solutions possible. But there is light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm very confident that by working together and with the lessons learned, we will be stronger afterwards. As many of you know, I always say optimism is a moral duty. And now to a more sobering and humbling tradition, the minute of silence. This year has also seen the passing of some cherished and important members of our community. Please join me in remembering them by rising for a moment of silence. Thank you very much. And I will now pass the floor to our Secretary General, Sabrina Ibanez, to take us through the agenda and procedures. Sabrina, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, dearest delegates. A little bit more of housekeeping before we tackle point 2 of the agenda, the quorum. You will have noticed that we have updated the agenda to demonstrate when we will take questions and when we will open up for voting. For instance, you'll notice that after point 3, we will pass to a vote. Thereafter, we will tackle points 4 to 14, open up for questions, and then go for the vote. I just wanted to remind you, please, that if you have any questions during the blocks, please do raise your hand so that we can put you in your little waiting room. Remember that there is 30 to 45 second delay, and we'll this way be able to more efficiently tackle the questions when they arrive. So now let's move on to the quorum. So we have 104 national federations that registered with a power of attorney, plus 1 proxy, which makes 105. To reach a quorum, we require 69. At this moment, we have 93 federations that are currently connected, plus 1 proxy, which equals 94. So we have reached our quorum. So then we can move on to point 3, which is the election of scrutineers. You will note in your papers that we have Sandra Widmer from Switzerland, who is present here in headquarters and who will be presiding over the scrutineers. As members, we are proposing Anhara Palin from Great Britain. Anhara Palin is a public notary, and she is present at the Lumi offices in the UK. In addition to that, we have Andrew Smith, who many of you know, who is a member of the Equestrian Community Integrity Unit. Andrew is also present in Lumi offices in the UK. Many of you know that we are using Lumi as our voting system. It's a secure voting system, which has been utilized at the IOC session, at the Association of Summer Olympic International Federations General Assembly, as well as the Global Association of International Sports. So what we will be asking you now to do is we are going to proceed with the voting right already, which is a good exercise. And I'll kindly ask our national federations to switch now to the Lumi voting tab, just as you rehearsed during the training sessions. Please do not close your blue jeans, just switch tabs. For everyone else, either if you're watching via Blue Jeans or on YouTube, please stay tuned and you'll watch the voting as it happens. So now I will hand the floor over to our team at Lumi in the UK so that we can proceed with the voting. To you.
Thank you very much. My name is Pete. I am from Lumi and I will be running the voting alongside your public notary here today, and Andrew Smith, as you referenced, is also with us in the Lumi offices. Just to reconfirm before I do hand to your public notary for this particular vote, and of course all votes coming up today as well, I just would like to remind all voting members, as we have done with every training session we have done with you to date, please cast all of your votes, and any voting matter will be cast within the Lumi voting portal platform. That is the platform that you logged into today, that obviously you logged in with your unique username and your unique password in order to gain access to Blue Jeans and to watch the meeting. So you must now return to that Lumi voting portal page and stand by for the vote. I will now hand over to your public notary to conduct all voting matters.
Hello, so we are voting on point 3, the scrutineers. Do you approve the following scrutineers for the FEI Online General Assembly 2020? Sandra Widmer, Anhara Palin and Andrew Smith. The poll is now open. You have 20 seconds remaining. You have 10 seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. There were 95 total possible votes. Abstentions and blank votes were 6. The valid votes cast were 89. 89 voted yes. 0 voted no.
We will now hand back to the General Assembly.
Okay, welcome back. So now we move on to membership. So here we will cover agenda points 4 all the way to 14. Again, if during the course of the presentations you have any questions, please remember to put your hand up and we will take them at the end of point 14. So 4.1, suspension. Unfortunately, we have 10 national federations which will need to be suspended for non-payment of their annual subscription. These national federations are as follows: Armenia, Azerbaijan, Cuba, Georgia, Iraq, Mongolia, Pakistan, Palestine, Syria, and Turkmenistan. Now, of course, the moment these national federations have paid their fees, they will immediately be reinstated and be members in good standing. Next, we will move on to point 4.2 of the agenda, which is the ratification of the United Arab Emirates National Federation's suspension. In line with Statutes, Article 10.7, and as per the CAS decision, whereby CAS has confirmed that the United Arab Emirates National Federation is suspended in all disciplines until the 31st of December, we will ask you national federations to ratify this decision. Next, we will move on to point 4.3, which is exclusion. Regrettably, despite many reminders and communications from the FEI and from the group chair to Brunei, Brunei has not paid its annual subscription for 2 years in a row. So, in accordance with the statutes, Brunei will need to be excluded from the FEI. Next, we will move on to point 5, which is the approval of the minutes of the General Assembly in Moscow. You have in your documents the minutes of the General Assembly in Moscow, and we will also ask you to approve these minutes at the end of point 14. Then we have the approval of the FEI Annual Report 2019. Again, this annual report is in your documents, and again, we will ask for your approval at the end of point 14. So now I would like to ask Claude Prat, who many of you know, our Chief Financial Officer, to take us through points 7 through 14. Thank you very much. Claude, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sabrina. Mr. President, members of the board, dear delegates from the national federations, the finance presentation of this General Assembly will have 4 chapters. First, we will have a look at the audited financial statements for 2019. We will then move on with the audit and compliance report, followed by the revised budget for 2020 with the impact of the COVID-19, and we will conclude with the budget 2021. The audited financial statements are located in Annex 7 of your document. You will also find in there more detailed explanations to the financial statement. 2019 turned out to be an excellent year for the FEI. The revenues amounted to 57,518,000 Swiss francs. The expenses at 55,321,000 Swiss francs, leaving a net profit for the FEI of 2.1 million Swiss francs. What also helped us in 2019 was a very positive performance of the portfolio, which returned a profit of 3,474,000 for 2019. Before we audited the financial statements for 2019, we made several proposals to the board for the allocation of the surplus. That surplus amounted before audit to 5,642,000. And the board decided following allocations of the surplus. First, it was decided that the 2019 solidarity projects will be paid by the regular FEI profit and loss instead of being drawn out of the funds. Every year, the FEI also allocates 500,000 Swiss francs to the solidarity operations. At the end of 2019, there was a balance of 167,000 Swiss francs left, which was deposited in the Solidarity Fund. The board also agreed for an allocation of 1 million Swiss francs to the Solidarity Fund, another million Swiss francs to the Vet Research Fund, and 500,000 Swiss francs allocated to the IT Fund. So, of the global surplus, we allocated 3,452,000 to various funds of the FEI. That's why you have a net profit of 2,197,000 in the financial statement. I would like to also point out that we ended 2019 with an amount of reserves of 24,327,000 Swiss francs. This number is located at the bottom of the balance sheets of the audited financial statements and is called operating funds. For the Audit and Compliance report, you will have Brian Mangan, the chair of the Audit and Compliance Committee. His report is in your annex. I would like to underline the excellent and fruitful collaboration I've had with Brian Mangan over the past few years, and I wanted to give him a special thank for that. The financial charges for 2021 are located in the Annex 11 of your documents. They are unchanged for 2021, with the exception of the late additions fee calendar, which is waived for 2021 for high-level events. We will now move on to the revised budget for 2020. This one is located in the Annex 13 of your documents, also with more detailed comments and explanations to those numbers. With the development of the coronavirus pandemic in the spring, we had the following challenge. We had to imagine what would the rest of the year 2020 be like. And we had to make assumptions. One of the assumptions we took is that there would be no more events for 2020. Consequences are highlighted on your screens. We were going to be faced with a strong reduction in commercial revenues, mainly due to sponsorship. As events could not happen anymore, we had to reimburse the sponsorship fee to our sponsors. We also decided to make FEI TV available for free because there was a lack of live events to show. On the operational revenues, this section is directly affected by the level of activity of the sports, and we foresee that we would have a strong reduction in the organizing dues, in passports, in athletes, and horses registration. Also in that section, the anti-doping revenues would consequently be strongly reduced because of lack of live events. On the non-operational revenues, the reduction there came mainly from the fact that the Olympic Games were going to be postponed in Tokyo in 2020 to 2021. Therefore, we would not collect the contribution that the IOC gives to international federations after the Olympic Games. So, being left with these strong reductions in revenues, we also had to act on the expense side. So what did we do? Well, first, there were some natural savings that would come from this pandemic. In commercial expenses, since there were no events, there were no prize money to be paid to the athletes and no contribution to be paid to the organizers of events. Also, in commercial expenses, the lack of live events also meant that there would be a natural reduction in production expenses for TV. On the operational expenses, that's where the FEI could really act on the expenses. And as mentioned by the President in his opening speech, we did cancel all non-essential projects for 2020, with strong reduction in expenses in IT, communication, some consultancy fees. We also decided to defer the solidarity projects from 2020 to 2021, as many countries were found in a lockdown situation. There was no traveling possible anymore, so we thought it was best to defer those projects to better times. We also, in operational expenses, deferred some expenses in non-essential education projects. In the general and administration expenses, we introduced the partial unemployment measures, whereby the unemployed hours, amounting to on average 30%, are reimbursed at 80% by the Swiss government. In that section also, travel expenses were strongly reduced because there was no possibilities for the staff to travel to events, officials couldn't travel anymore, and also the travel expenses that were planned for the Olympic Games and the Paralympic Games were cancelled due to the postponement of the game. In the general and administration expenses also, the strong reduction comes from the fact that the IOC contribution, the same year we receive it, it is also allocated to the IOC fund to be used in the later years. Since we don't have the income in that section, we're not going to have the expenses either. So to sum it up, back in April, May, we forecasted, as mentioned by the President, 8,230,000 Swiss franc loss for 2020. Well, the reality is not as bad. We will not see that dramatic loss at the end of the year. In the course of the summer, more events happened, which generated additional income in organizing dues, athletes registration, horse registrations, and passports. The portfolio, where it showed a loss of 2.5 million at the end of May, has also strongly recovered. And the recovering has been even stronger the last few weeks, with the hope that a vaccine is going to be available sometime in the near future. Also, what happened during the late spring and the summer is that the actual spending was lower than what we had forecasted. The FEI staff has been very good at being very careful into what amounts they were spending and thinking twice before triggering an expense. So, given the amount of reserves that I mentioned earlier, 24.3 million, we can see that this loss is going to be considerably smaller than 8.2 million. And the amount of reserves show you that we can absorb any loss that will happen this year without any threat to the FEI future. We also took some measures in favor of our national federation, as mentioned earlier by the President. We reduced the annual subscription fees for the national federations by 50% for 2020. We also waived, as of 15th of April, all the calendar fees for the remainder of 2020. We have extended the payment deadlines to the national federations by 90 days, in effect giving them 120 days to pay their dues, as the normal terms are 30 days. And in September, there was the COVID-19 relief fund that was set up in excess of 1 million Swiss francs. We are now going to move on to the 2021 budget, which is located in the Annex 14 of your documents, again with more detailed comments if you need more explanations to those numbers. Again, for that budget for next year, we had to make some assumptions. One of them is that the indoor season, we could see that already in the fall, that the indoor season was going to be strongly impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. We can hope and see that the activity should pick up in the spring once the new season comes. And the last assumption we made is that we will continue with partial unemployment for the staff into the spring of 2021. Commercial revenues. We have budgeted those commercial revenues as a normal year. The reason being that if there are more events canceled into the spring of 2021, they will be reimbursed to our sponsor, but we will not have the payment to the organizing committee or in terms of prize money to the athletes. So basically this is washing out in terms of the expense side. The TV revenues in that section have been aligned on 2020. 2021 will be a transition year for the television as our partnership with Clip My Horse will be fully implemented. On the operational revenues, as we see that the indoor season is going to be really impacted, we have calculated for about 60% of our revenues in calendar and organizing dues to be happening in 2021. This is directly dependent on the level of activity of our sports. The board also accepted another reduction of 50% of the annual subscriptions for the national federations for 2021. In the non-operational revenues section, this section is mainly affected by the contribution from the IOC, which we will receive after the Olympic Games in 2021 in Tokyo. The contribution from funds line, this corresponds to the expenses that are paid by various funds at the FEI. In 2021, this will be mainly affected by solidarity. We will have the 2021 projects that have been accepted by the Solidarity Committee last September. We will have the catch-up of the 2020 deferred projects to 2021. And there will be the 1 million Swiss franc in excess of 1 million Swiss franc relief fund for COVID-19. Moving on to the expenses side. Commercial expenses at 19,146,000. These have been reduced to the bare minimum. We did strong cuts in activation expenses. And of course, if situation develops and activity kicks in back in 2021, then we will also have the capacity to release more expenses as we go. The implementation of the Clip My Horse television partnership should also provide sensible savings in terms of production, TV production in 2021. This number is still difficult to assess at this time, as we need to see how this partnership develops. Therefore, for sake of budget purposes, we took the same number as we were in the previous system. We also have decided to maintain our investment in digital, to follow the trend towards social media, and to make sure that we provide good visibility for our sponsors. It is also interesting to note that the IOC will also concentrate on digital for the 2020 and 2024 Olympics to evaluate the visibility of various sports. On the operational expenses, we concentrated in maintaining essential expenses. We reduced quite sensibly the professional fee and the consultancy expenses that we had. The amount of the reduction compared to the 2020 revised budget is 711,000 Swiss francs. The anti-doping expenses have been lined up to the expected level of activity for 2021. And the solidarity expenses, I just explained it in the revenue section, what will happen there. On the general and administration expenses, the staff charges have been lined up on the 2020 revised budget. We will be pursuing partial employment measures for the staff into the spring. Travel expenses have picked up because we are forecasting more activity in 2021 than we had in 2020. And there will be also some traveling necessary for the Olympic Games and Paralympic in Tokyo later this year. The allocation to fund line, this is the section in expense where we allocate the contribution from the IOC that we will receive after the Games. And this amount will be allocated to the fund to be used in the next 3 years as we go on. In summary, you can see that the total revenues for 2021 will amount to 54,051,000 Swiss francs. Total expenses are forecasted at 55,375,000 for a net loss that we forecast at 1,324,000 Swiss francs. Again, given the level of reserves we had when we entered this pandemic, we can see that this amount of loss can be absorbed by the FEI reserve without posing any threats to the near future of the FEI. This concludes the presentation of the finance section of the General Assembly. We will now move on to your questions from points number 4 to points number 14. If you have any questions, kindly raise your hand through the system, and I will now give the floor back to Sabrina to manage the questions and the voting that should follow after that. Thank you.
Thank you, Claude. Thank you very much. Maybe just while we're waiting for questions, just a little update. We now have 96 federations that have registered and are connected to our online General Assembly. So please raise your hand if you have any questions for any of the points between 4 and 14. Also, don't forget to use the chat. It's also a good way to communicate with us. Please bear with us. It will take a little time for us to receive your questions and then to reply to them, as we know there is a bit of delay. So we are looking forward. So we're just going to wait a little bit, filling in the void here. Okay, we're waiting for questions, and as soon as we get these, we will address them. And after that, obviously, we would move on to the voting with Lumi, but not yet. Okay, apparently there is a question coming in from the Netherlands. We haven't yet received it, but we do know that they have notified us that they do have a query. We will be inviting Iris Bohlauer to present the question. Waiting room right now and will be with us very shortly. Thank you for your patience. Hello, Iris.
Hi, good afternoon. We had a question from our side. Claude just mentioned that the final number for the revised budget would be 8,230,000 in first instance, but later on in his talk he said that the year wouldn't turn out as bad as expected. So we were wondering what would be the year-end forecast for 2020?
Thank you for your question. It is still difficult to put a final number of that because we still have discussions going on with our sponsors regarding the level of reimbursement of the sponsorship fee that we will have in 2020. And pending the final number of those discussions, it's really difficult to pinpoint a number for year end, but it will be considerably lower than 8,230,000. And
okay,
also we have the portfolio that fared better. The portfolio I checked it last Friday and we had 800,000 loss compared to the 2.5 million that are included in those numbers. So right there you have 1.7 million of better compared to the 8.2 million.
Okay.
Does that answer your
much.
question?
It does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Iris. Thank you very much for that. Maybe just another further update. Now we have 97 federations that are connected. There are no other questions that we have received so far. We'll just wait a bit more if anybody has any other further clarity required. Just waiting a few more seconds. Maybe another 30 seconds. Okay. Okay. Well, if there are no further questions, let us continue with the agenda. So now we're going to tackle point 15, which is the approval of, oh, sorry, excuse me. Too quick. Excuse me. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for reminding your Secretary General to slow down. All right, so now we're going to switch to the voting. So again, I'm going to ask national federations to please switch to your Lumi voting tab, just as you've done before. And I'd like to invite Lumi to take us through the votes. Thank you very much.
Hello there. So we are now voting on point 4.2. Do you ratify the suspension of the UAE National Federation until 31st of December 2020? The poll is now open. We have 20 seconds remaining. Ten seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. The results of the voting on point 4.2 are: the total possible votes cast are 97, the abstentions and blank votes are 17, the valid votes cast are 80, there are 78 votes of yes and 2 votes of no. So the motion is passed. Handing back to headquarters now.
Oh, this has been now ratified by the General Assembly. So if you do not mind taking us through the next point, that would be very good. Thanks.
So we are now voting on point 5. Do you approve the minutes of the General Assembly 2019, ordinary and extraordinary in Moscow? The poll is now open. There are 20 seconds remaining. Ten seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. The results of the poll on point 5 are: the total possible votes, 97, the abstentions and blank votes are 10, the valid votes cast are 87, so yes is 85 and no is 2. Handing back to headquarters now, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So the minutes have been approved. I'd be interested in knowing those 2 national federations that voted against. Maybe if they could tell us what inside the minutes were they not agreeing with, but that will be for the future. But thank you for that. Okay, so let's move on then, Ms. Palin, if you don't mind, to the approval of the annual report for 2019.
Thanks very much. So point 6, we are voting on: do you approve the annual report 2019? The poll is now open. Twenty seconds remaining. Ten seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. The results of the vote on point 6, the total possible votes, 97, the abstentions and blank votes, 4, the valid votes cast, 93. 93 votes for yes and 0 votes for no. Passing back to the headquarters now.
Thank you. So the annual report has been approved. So then we can move on to the annual financial report, approval of the FEI accounts 2019 and the auditor's report. Thank you, Ms. Palin.
Thank you. So the vote on point 7, do you approve the 2019 annual accounts? The poll is now open. Twenty seconds remaining. Ten seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. So the results of the vote on point 7 are: total possible votes are 97, the abstentions and blank votes are 4, the valid votes cast are 93. Yes, 93 votes, no, 0 votes. Handing back to headquarters, thanks.
Thank you. So the annual financial report and approval of the 2019 accounts and auditor's report has passed as well. Thank you very much. So now we will jump to point 9, which is the release of the board and FEI Secretary General for 2019. Helen?
Thank you. So point 9, do you release the board and the Secretary General for the year 2019? The poll is now open. Twenty seconds remaining. Ten seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. The results of the poll on point 9, the total possible votes are 97, the abstentions and blank votes are 8, the valid votes cast are 89, yes 89 votes, no 0 votes. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Palin. Maybe going forward, let's give our delegates another 30 seconds to cast their votes, if you please. And thank you very much, National Federation's delegates, for releasing the board and your Secretary General. Okay, so then let's move on to approval of 2021 financial charges. Ms. Palin?
So we're now voting on point 10. Do you approve PricewaterhouseCoopers in Lausanne as the auditors for 2021? The poll is now open. You have 20 seconds remaining. Ten seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. The results of the vote on point 10, the total possible votes are 97, abstentions and blank votes 6, the valid votes cast 91. Yes was 91 votes and no was 0 votes. Thank you.
Thank you. So the auditors have been now approved. So then we will move on to the 2021 financial charges.
The vote on point 11. Do you approve the financial charges for 2021? The poll is now open. Twenty seconds remaining. Ten seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. The results of the vote on point 11. The total possible votes are 97. The abstentions and blank votes are 10. The valid votes cast are 87. Yes, 87 votes. No, 0 votes. Thank you.
Thank you. So the financial charges for 2021 have been approved. Now we move on to point 13, revised budget 2020.
We are now voting on point 13. Do you approve the revised budget for 2020? The poll is now open. Twenty seconds remaining. Ten seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. The results of the vote on point 13. The total possible votes is 98. The abstentions and blank votes are 7. The valid votes cast, 91. Yes, 91 votes. No, 0 votes. Thanks.
Thank you. So the revised budget 2020 has been approved. We move on to the last financial point, which is budget 2021.
So we are now voting on point 14. Do you approve the budget for 2021? The poll is now open. Twenty seconds remaining. Ten seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. Results of the vote on point 14. The total possible votes, 98. Abstentions and blank votes, 8. The valid votes cast, 90. Yes, 90 votes. No, 0 votes. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ms. Palin. So the 2021 budget has now been approved, and just for everybody's information, now we have 98 national federations that are registered and are on our General Assembly. Okay, so we will move on now to the approval of the FEI rules and regulations, and we will start with the general regulations, the modifications. Now, we had our session on Saturday, and many of you national delegates, you were national federations, you were there present. There were no questions really raised on the general regulations, and we will of course ask you to approve these general regulations after this point, and we'll open up anyways to questions. Then we have 15.2. Now, these are the anti-doping rules for human athletes, as discussed on Saturday and presented by our legal director, Michael Rensch. The anti-doping rules for human athletes now include WADA's approved definition of in competition, which is as follows. The period commencing 1 hour before the beginning of the first horse inspection, the day before a competition, in which the athlete rider is scheduled to participate, through to the end of the last competition at the event for that athlete rider, or the sample collection process related to such competition. So this definition will be included in the rules that you will be asked to approve very shortly. Then we move on to 15.3, the equine anti-doping and controlled medications regulations. There were no major questions that were asked at the session. But again, if you have any questions regarding the general regulations, the anti-doping rules for human athletes, or the ADMCRs, please, now is the time to ask your questions. Don't forget to raise your hand. We will put you in the waiting room and present them there, put you forward as the presenter. So we're going to wait for a couple of questions. You can also ask your questions via chat. Happy to address these as well. If there are no questions afterwards, then we will then go ahead and proceed with the voting through Lumi. But let's wait a little bit more to see if there are any of you that have any outstanding matters that you would like to address with the FEI. I'm looking at my board here. Doesn't seem like anybody is asking questions yet, but this may change. Patience. Okay. Maybe we just wait a little bit more. I bore you to death. Okay. Stay with me. All right. Well, you know what? It seems like we were quite clear during the sessions. And again, many, many thanks to all of you that participated on Saturday. It was greatly, greatly appreciated. So we will go on then and move to the Lumi platform, voting tab. Stay on Blue Jeans, you know what to do. And UK, it's your turn again to take us through. Thank you.
Thanks very much. So we're now voting on point 15.1. Do you approve the modifications to the general regulations? The poll is now open. 20 seconds remaining. Ten seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. The results of the vote on point 15.1, the total possible votes are 98, the abstentions and blank votes are 7, the valid votes cast are 91, yes 91 votes, no 0 votes. Handing back to headquarters.
Thank you very much. So the FEI General Regulations have been approved. We can move on to the next point.
Thank you. So moving on to point 15.2, do you approve the modifications to the anti-doping rules for human athletes? The poll is now open. Twenty seconds remaining. Ten seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. The results of the vote on point 15.2, the total possible votes are 98, the abstentions and blank votes 6, the valid votes cast 92, yes 92 votes, no 0 votes. Handing back to headquarters.
Thank you. So the anti-doping rules for human athletes, modifications to these have been approved. And we'll move on to the last point, 15.3.
So the vote on point 15.3, do you approve the modifications to the equine anti-doping and controlled medication regulations? The poll is now open. 20 seconds remaining. Ten seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. So the results of the poll on point 15.3, the total possible votes, 98, the abstentions and blank votes, 7, the valid votes cast, 91, yes, 91 votes, no, 0 votes. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. So the equine anti-doping and control medication regulations, modifications to these have been approved by the General Assembly. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to go through points 16 through 28. After that, we will stop for a break, and then we will continue. So again, we will tackle points 16 through 28. So first point is 16.1, and that is the Jumping Committee report. If there are any questions for that, the Stefan Ellenbroek is on standby and can answer questions at the end of this whole block. We will then ask you to approve the jumping rules as were presented and in your documents. Then we will move on to point 17, which is the 17.1. Again, you have in your documents the chair's report established by Frank Kemperman, and we will ask you afterwards to approve the modifications being proposed to the dressage rules. Thereafter, we have 18.1, the Para-Equestrian Committee report prepared by Amanda Bond, and the modifications under 18.2. Then we will move on to eventing. Again, we have the report from the chair, Mr. David O'Connor. He is ready to answer any questions if needed. And then the eventing rules modifications. Now, on Saturday, you will recall that there was a little bit of discussions regarding Annex D of the eventing rules. Katja Norinder, the director of eventing, explained to us that these will be slightly modified prior to the publication of the rules for ease of reading. Newly introduced requirements have been identified as notes rather than as footnotes. So the content, however, will not be changed. So again, just to bring this to your attention. Then we have 20, which is endurance. We have Sarah Coombs, the chair of the Endurance Temporary Committee's report, included in your documents, and the rules modifications. And we will move on to point 21, which is driving and para-driving, where you can refer to Mr. Karoli Fugli's report, the chair of the driving and para-driving. And then 21.2. Now here again on Saturday, and thank you very much to United States, Germany, and I believe in France for your comments. We took note of your comments regarding the amendments to the invitation process for driving events, for CAIOs, basically Article 916.3, where national federations are invited according to the previous World Championships. Now, we agreed during the session that this article will need to be reviewed in the near future and will be included in the full revisions which driving and para-driving will undergo next year. We also agreed that, if needed, this will be raised with the board, and we could potentially include an emergency board resolution if the situation does arise. So we have taken on board your comments, and again, many, many, many thanks. Then we move on to point 22, and there we have the vaulting committee report, which has been drafted by John Eccles, its chair, and the vaulting rules modifications. During the session, there was no specific item that was raised regarding vaulting. Then we move on to point 23, which is reining, and here we have the reining committee's report prepared by Sven Frieseke, and we also have an annex regarding the future of FEI reining And again, it is in your annexes. Under point 24, we have veterinary. We have the chair of the veterinary committee's report, Jenny Hall's report, and the veterinary regulations. Again, on Saturday, there were no specific points that needed to be addressed. So we will ask for your approval on these veterinary regulations. And point 25.1, we have the medical committee chair report prepared by Mark Hart. There is nothing to be approved there. Then under point 26, we have the athletes committee report prepared by Maria Gretzer. Again, any questions? Maria is happy to answer them. And then now we move on to point 27, which is solidarity. And here we have a report, but not only a report. We will also ask you to approve the members of the solidarity committee in one slate. Now, many of you know that these terms are for 1 year only, and each year we ask you to approve the members being selected and put forward. There's only actually one change from last year, and that is for Group 5. Mr. Juan Luis Rodriguez from Guatemala, he finished his term, so he needed to be replaced. And our president has asked Ms. Hania Wolf from Costa Rica to replace him as representative on the Solidarity Committee. So again, we will ask you to approve the entire slate when we go through the voting of the process. Then under point 28, we have the nominations, and we have the nominations committee report, which has been prepared by Neila Stossel. And of course, if you have any questions regarding that, we're happy to take them. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we're happy to take any questions that you may have regarding any points between 16 and 28. So it's all the technical committees and the standing committees. And if there are no questions, and I believe many of the questions that may have arisen before regarding the rules were done at the session, but anyways, now is your chance, if you have any questions, to put these forward to us so that we can respond to them. There are no questions. Well, then we will move on to a vote. And as I mentioned to you before, after point 28, after we finish the voting, we will we will stop for a short break so that we can all stretch our legs a little bit. Okay? So again, happy to, if anybody wants to raise their hand or if they want to send any question via chat, now is the time to do it. And and if not, we will just move on to the voting. So let's see if within the next seconds or so we received a question from you. And like I mentioned, if we don't, we will proceed to a vote and thereafter a break. So there are no questions that have been coming in through our chat so far. No hands raised. Maybe potentially give you another 30 seconds to decide whether or not you want to ask a question. And if not, again, we'll move to a vote. Well, seems like we've answered your questions. So listen, ladies and gentlemen, we will move on to a vote. And Ms. Palin, if you please. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. So we are voting on point 16.2. Do you approve the modifications to the jumping rules? The poll is now open. There are 20 seconds remaining. Ten seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. The results of the vote on point 16.2 are the total possible votes, 98, the abstentions and blank votes, 4, the valid votes cast, 94, yes, 94 votes, no, 0 votes. Thank you.
Many thanks. So the jumping rules modifications have been approved. We can move on to dressage.
So we're now voting on point 17.2. Do you approve the modifications to the dressage rules? The poll is now open. Twenty seconds remaining. Ten seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. So the results of the voting on point 17.2, the total possible votes are 98, the abstentions and blank votes, 9, the valid votes cast are 89, yes, 88 votes, no, 1 vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So the dressage rule modifications have been also approved. We can now move on to para-dressage rules.
So we're now voting on point 18.2. Do you approve the modifications to the para-dressage rules? The poll is now open. There are 20 seconds remaining. Ten seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. The results of the vote on point 18.2. The total possible votes are 98. The abstentions and blank votes are 9. The valid votes cast are 89. Yes, 89 votes, and no, 0 votes. Thanks.
Thank you. So the para-dressage rules have now been approved as well. So we will move on to the eventing rules.
So we're now voting on point 19.2. Do you approve the modifications to the eventing rules? The poll is now open. There are 20 seconds remaining. Ten seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. So the results of the vote on point 19.2. The total possible votes are 98. The abstentions and blank votes are 10. The valid votes cast, 88. Yes, 88 votes. No, 0 votes. Thank you.
Thank you. So the eventing rules have also been approved. Next, we will move on to the endurance rules.
So the next vote is on point 20.2. Do you approve the modifications to the endurance rules? The poll is now open. There are 20 seconds remaining. Ten seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. So the results of the vote on point 20.2, and just to make everyone aware that 2 new members joined during this vote and are therefore included in the numbers. So the total possible votes are 100, the abstentions and blank votes are 14, the valid votes cast are 86, yes 85 votes, no 1 vote. Thanks.
Thank you. So the endurance rules have also been approved. Now we're going to move on to driving and para-driving rules, the modifications being proposed.
Thank you. So the vote is on point 21.2. Do you approve the modifications to the driving and the para-driving rules? The poll is now open. There are 20 seconds remaining. Ten seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. So the results of the vote on point 21.2, and just to be clear, we had another member joining during that vote and they have participated in this vote. So the total possible votes are 101, the abstentions and blank votes are 21, the valid votes cast are 80, yes 78 votes, no 2 votes. Thank you.
Thank you. So the driving and para-driving rules have also been approved. Then we will move on to vaulting, the modifications being proposed.
Thank you. So the next poll is on point 22. Do you approve the modifications to the vaulting rules? The poll is now open. 20 seconds remaining. Ten seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. The results of the voting on point 22, the total possible votes, 101, abstentions and blank votes, 14, the valid votes cast, 87, yes, 87 votes, no, 0 votes. Thank you.
Thank you. So the vaulting rules have also been approved. Now we move on to the veterinary regulations.
So point 24.2, do you approve the modifications to the veterinary regulations? The poll is now open. Twenty seconds remaining. Ten seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. The results of the vote on point 24.2, the total possible votes, 101, abstentions and blank votes, 8, valid votes cast, 93, yes, 93 votes, no, 0 votes. Thank you.
Thank you. So the veterinary regulations have also been approved. And last but not least, we're going to move on to the appointment of the Solidarity Committee members. Alan?
Thank you. So we're now voting on point 27.2. Do you approve the members of the Solidarity Committee appointed by the FEI President for the term 2020 to 2021? The poll is now open. There are 20 seconds remaining. Ten seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. The results of the vote on point 27.2. The total possible votes, 101. Abstentions and blank votes, 8. The valid votes cast, 93. Yes, 93 votes. No, 0 votes. Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations to the newly appointed members and those who have already served. So now what we would like to suggest to all of you is to have a little pause, a little break. It is currently 14:10 or 2 p.m. 10 minutes past in Lausanne. We would like to resume the meeting, the General Assembly, at 2:30. So right now, as I mentioned, it's 2:10. We'd like to resume at 2:30. That is Swiss time. And please do not switch off your computers. Stay on. Do not do anything. But please do come back at 2:30, and at 2:30 our time, we will continue with the voting for the elections, okay? So see you very shortly in 20 minutes, actually 19 minutes. Thank you.
We don't do it for the glamour, for the glory, or the shiny trophies. We don't do it for the perfect moments, for the easy jobs, or the immaculate outfits. We do it for the love of this life, for the love of equestrian. We do it for their gentle touch, the warm breath on our necks, the scratches and the cuddles. We do it for the kisses, the sea spray on our faces, the shared treat at the end of a long day. We do it for the smell of the tack room, of horses being shod, of rain on the grass before we head out. We do it for the sound of heartwarming greetings, hoofbeats and birdsong on an early ride, celebrations when things finally click. We do it for that special feeling when we're flying across the country and floating through the sky. We do it for that little knot of excitement, the surge of power and adrenaline, the belief that together we are unbeatable. We do it because it's our passion, because we've always done it, and we always will. We do it for the love of this life, for the love of equestrian.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you very much for being back with us. That video. Anyways, let's move on to our agenda again. We will now proceed with, we're going to start doing the elections for the various positions that are open. So I'm just going to run through who is being proposed, and at the end of this point 29, we'll hand it over to Lumi and we will go on with the elections. So for 29.1, we have the position of the Regional Group Chair 4. And there we have Mark Samuel from Canada. He's the only candidate that was put forward for this position, and he received 2/3 majority of his groups for his re-election. His name will be put forward to you. Then under point 29.2, we have the chair of Regional Group 8, and there we have Mr. Jack Huang from Taipei. This is following an online election which took place within the group. He has been elected by the members of Group 8 and will be the sole candidate put forward to the General Assembly for election. For 29.3, the chair of Regional Group Group 9, we have Mrs. Bridget Matias, also known as Gigi, who will be replacing Mary Binks and is the sole candidate that is being put forward for this position, and also has received the 2/3 majority of her group for her re-election. Then we move on to 29.4, which is the chair of the Endurance Committee. These are contested elections. Here we have 3 names that will be included on the ballot. Those are Mr. Dafi Rashid Al-Mari, Qatar, Mr. Daniel Fenot from Spain, and Mr. Cristiano Lozano from France, who has received the unanimous recommendation of the Technical Committee and the Nominations Committee. Now, Mr. Pierre Arnaud from Belgium, his name has been removed from the ballot as he has been provisionally suspended. So only 3 candidates will be put forward for your election. Then we move on to 29.5, which is the chair of the Vaulting Committee. And here again, we have contested elections. We have Mr. John Eccles from Great Britain and Ms. Pavla Kruspe from Slovakia. She has a recommendation of the Nominations Committee. A simple majority will be required for this vote. I probably should have mentioned to you before as well, and I apologize for not doing it before, that for the endurance chair, A simple majority will also be required for the election. As for the endurance chair, there are 3 candidates. If on the first ballot a simple majority is not achieved, then the name of the candidate with the lesser votes will be removed from the second ballot, and we will proceed with another election. Apologies for not having taken that under point 29.4, but I think you understand. Now, if we now move on with the agenda, we also have the position of the chair of the Para-Question Committee. And here we only have 1 candidate, and that is Amanda Bond from Hong Kong. For the chair of the Medical Committee, we also only have 1 candidate that is being put forward, and that is in the place of Mr. Mark Hart. Then we will proceed to move on with the Audit and Compliance Committee chair. There we will see Mr. Brian Mangan. He's outgoing. And there's only one person, that has been put forward for election, and that is Janice Shardlow from Great Britain. Now, since Janice was sitting on the committee before, we will have an election for committee members on the Audit and Compliance Committee. We have received 2 candidacies, and those are of Ms. Teola Barclay from Zambia, and we have Mr. Bolivio from Cyprus. These 2 will be a contested election. Then if we move down to the deputy chairs, as you know, we elect these as well. We have the deputy chair of Group 4, and that the name that is being presented for this position is Monique Archer from Barbados. For the deputy group chair of Group 8, we have Mr. Kimihiro Okubo from Japan. For the position for the deputy chair of Group 9, we have Mrs. Mary Banks from Kenya. So these are the different candidates that have been presented to you. When Lumi does present you the different candidates, you will also have their terms, which is 2020-2024, except for that, I believe, of the audit and compliance. But we'll take 1 at each time, so there are no confusions. So again, national federations, I kindly ask you to switch to the Lumi voting tab. Don't close anything, just do as you've done before, and we will proceed on to the voting. So thank you very much. And Ms. Palin in Lumi, please, the floor is yours.
Thanks very much. So our first vote is on point 29.1. Do you elect Mark Samuel as chair of the Regional Group 4 for the term 2020 to 2024? The poll is now open. Twenty seconds remaining. Ten seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. The results of the vote on point 29.1. The total possible votes, 102. Abstentions and blank votes, 10. Valid votes cast, 92. Yes, 91 votes. No, 1 vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. Congratulations upon your re-election as chair of Group 4 for the period of 2020-2022. So we move on to the next one, Group 8.
Thank you. So we are now voting on point 29.2. Do you elect Jack Huang as chair of the Regional Group 8 for the term 2020 to 2024? The poll is now open. Twenty seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. The results of the vote on point 29.2 are: the total possible votes are 102, abstentions and blank votes, 7, the valid votes cast are 95, yes, 95 votes, no, 0 votes. Thank you.
Thank you. So Jack Huang has been re-elected as chair of Group 8 for the period of 2020-2024. And I'm afraid that for Mark Samuel, I had said 2020-2022 when his term is definitely until 2024. So just for the minutes, let that be clear. So now we move on to the election of Group 9 chair.
Thank you. So we're now voting on point 29.3. Do you elect Brigitte Matthias as chair of Regional Group 8 for the term 2020 to 2024? Sorry, that should be Regional Group 9 for the term. The poll is now open. We have 20 seconds remaining. Ten seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. And the results of the poll on points 29.3, the total possible votes, 102. Abstentions and blank votes are 7. The valid votes cast are 95. Yes, 95 votes. No, 0 votes. Thank you.
Thank you. So congratulations to Brigitte Matthias, who has been elected as the chair for Group 9 for the term 2020-2024. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we will move on to the election of the chair of the Endurance Committee.
So we're now voting on point 29.4. Please elect one of the following candidates as chair of the Endurance Committee for the term 2020 to 2024. Dafi Rashid Almari, Daniel Fano, and Christian Lozano. The poll is now open. Twenty seconds remaining. Ten seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. So the result of the votes on point 29.4, the total possible votes, 102. The abstentions and blank votes are 7. The valid votes cast are 95. Mr. Christian Lozano had 59 votes. Mr. Dafi Rashid Almari had 19 votes. And Mr. Daniel Fano, 17. Thank you.
Thank you. So a big congratulations to Mr. Christian Lozano upon your election as chair of the Endurance Committee for the terms 2020-2024. Maybe you will have noticed as well, delegates, that we have received, there are more national federations that are now registered with the FEI General Assembly online, and we are up to 102 now, just to let you know. Okay, so then we will move on to the next election, which is also contested, and that is for the chair of the vaulting committee.
Thank you. So we're now voting on point 29.5. Please elect one of the following candidates as chair of the vaulting committee for the term 2020 to 2024. Mr. John Eccles or Ms. Pavla Kruspa. The poll is now open. Twenty seconds remaining. 10 seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. The results of the voting on points 29.5. The total possible votes were 102. Abstentions and blank votes were 8. And the valid votes cast, 94. Ms. Pavla Kruspa got 58 votes and Mr. John Eccles, 36 votes. Thank you.
Big congratulations to Pavla Kruspa upon your election as chair of the vaulting committee for the period of 2020-2024. John Eccles, thank you for all your work so far with the vaulting committee. Okay, so then we will move on to the 29.6, which is the election of the para-equestrian committee chair.
Thank you. So we're now voting on point 29.6. Do you elect Amanda Bond as chair of the Para-Equestrian Committee for the term 2020 to 2024? The poll is now open. There are 20 seconds remaining. 10 10 seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. The results of the vote on point 29.6. The total possible votes are 102. The abstentions and blank votes, 13. The valid votes cast are 89. Yes, 89 votes. No, 0 votes. Thanks.
Thank you. A big congratulations to Amanda Bond, who has been elected as chair of the Para-Equestrian Committee for the terms 2020-2024. And now we will proceed with the election of the chair of the Medical Committee.
Thanks. So we're now voting on point 29.7. Do you elect Mark Hart as chair of the Medical Committee for the term 2020 to 2024? The poll is now open. There are 20 seconds remaining. Ten seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. The results of the vote on point 29.7. The total possible votes are 102. The abstentions and blank votes are 8. The valid votes cast are 94. Yes, 93 votes. No, 1 vote. Thanks.
Thank you, and a big congratulations to Mark Hart for your election as chair of the Medical Committee for the period of 2020-2024. Next, we will move on to the chair of the Audit and Compliance Committee.
Thanks. So we're now voting on point 29.8. Do you elect Janice Shardlow as chair of the Audit and Compliance Committee for the term 2020 to 2024? The poll is now open. 20 seconds remaining. Ten seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. So the results of the votes on point 29.8, the total possible votes, 102, abstentions and blank votes, 12, the valid votes cast, 90. Yes, 90 votes, no, 0 votes. Thanks.
Thank you, and big congratulations to Janice Charlo upon your election as Chair of the Audit and Compliance Committee for the periods 2020-2024. So now we will move on to the election of the Audit and Compliance Committee member.
So we're now voting on point 29.9. Please elect one of the following candidates as member of the Audit and Compliance Committee for the term 2020 to 2022, Ms. Viola Barclay and Mr. Polyvios Polyviou. The poll is now open. Twenty seconds remaining. Ten seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. So the results of the poll on point 29.9, the total possible votes, 102, the abstentions and blank votes, 13, the valid votes cast, 89. Ms. Viola Barclay had 60 votes, and Mr. Polyvios Polyviou had 29 votes. Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations to Teola Barclay for your election as committee chair for the period of 2020-2022. Which now takes us to the election of deputy group chair for Group 4.
Thank you. So we're now voting on points 29.10. Do you elect Monique Archer as deputy group chair 4 for the term 2020 to 2024? The poll is now open. There are 20 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. The results of the vote on point 29.10. The total possible votes, 102. The abstentions and blank votes, 20. The valid votes cast, 82. Yes, 82 votes. No, 0 votes. Thanks.
Thank you, and congratulations, Monique Archer, on your election as Deputy Chair for Group 4. So we will now move on to the Deputy Group Chair for Group 8. Thank you.
So we're now voting on point 29.11. Do you elect Kimihiro Okubo as Deputy Group Chair 8 for the term 2020 to 2024? The poll is now open. We have 20 seconds remaining. Ten seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. The results of the vote on points 29.11. The total possible votes, 102. Abstentions and blank votes, 11. Valid votes cast, 91. Yes, 91 votes. No, 0 votes. Thanks.
Thank you, and congratulations to Mr. Kimihiro Okubo for your election as Deputy Chair for Group 8. We have one more election to go, and that is for the Deputy Chair of Group 9.
So now we are voting on point 29.12. Do you elect Mary Binks as Deputy Group Chair 9 for the term 2020 to 2024? The poll is now open. Twenty seconds remaining. Ten seconds remaining. The poll is now closed. The results of the vote on point 29.12. The total possible votes are 102. Abstentions and blank votes, 13. Valid votes cast, 89. Yes, 89 votes. No, 0 votes. Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations to Mary Binks on your election as Deputy Chair for Group 9 for the period 2020-2024. A huge congratulations to all the new chairs, deputy chairs, and audit and compliance member as well. So ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, this concludes all the voting for the General Assembly. But we still have a number of items that we wish to tackle. Please stay with us. We will now move on to point 30 of the agenda, which is decisions by the board and appointments by the Board of Technical Committee members. So you will have seen that we have established a wrap-up document which was provided to you on the 19th of November on the decisions of the board. And then now we're going to go through the appointments that were made by the board. I just wanted to make maybe a bit of a clarification regarding the Endurance Committee appointments, how and when that will happen. Actually, 3 of the members that were putting forward their candidacies for the position of the committee were also putting forward the position for the chair. So we first wanted to see who the chair would be, and thereafter the appointment of the committee members for endurance would take place. So just for all clarity, the Endurance Committee appointments will only take place during the board meeting, which takes place on the 25th of this month, which is on Wednesday, I believe. Okay. So, yes, for the FEI Jumping Committee member, the board appointed Mrs. Diane Baxter from South Africa for the periods of 2020-2024. For dressage, the board appointed Monica Teodorescu from Germany, also for the same period, 2020-2024. For eventing, the board appointed Mr. Pierre Le Goupil from France, also from 2020-2024. For driving, we have Mr. Benjamin Ayot from France as well, and he also will be staying with us until 2024. Then for vaulting, we have Mr. Dietmar Otto from Germany for the period of 2020-2024, and Mrs. Joyce Puttenink, sorry if my pronunciation is not perfect, has been appointed for the Committee of Equestrian, and that also for the term 2020-24. So, and I already mentioned the situation with endurance. So that takes us to the next point on the agenda, which is 31, clean sport. Now, you will have received in your documents the report on the Global Equine Anti-Doping Control Medication Program. And at the end of this section, if you have any questions, we're happy to take them. You will also have received in your documents the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games and Paralympic update in this report. There were also a series of allocations performed by the board at their meeting on the 19th of November regarding championships and finals. And here I'm happy just to take you through them very quickly. So for 2021, the board has allocated the FEI Jumping World Challenge to Indonesia. And this will take place mid-September at a date still to be established. Then we also have for 2021, the FEI Dressage European Championships for young riders, juniors, and children. And this has been allocated to Valencia in Spain. And the dates are the 5th to the 11th of July. For 2022, the board has allocated the FEI Dressage European Championships for children and under 25 to Filasjasfalu in Hungary. The dates have still not been established, but they will definitely take place during the European summer holidays, as agreed by the board. So that, ladies and gentlemen, are the allocations that took place during the board meeting last week. Congratulations to all of those that have been allocated these very important championships and events. Now, if you allow me, I will move on to point 34, which is the FEI Management Report. This report, if you have read it, includes reports from the Education and Officials Department. It also includes a report from the IT Department, Communications, Commercial, and Human Resources. Maybe I do have a small update that will interest you, and that is that the FEI, we have now reinitiated the recruitment process for the Director of the Endurance Department. We hope to be finalized with this recruitment by the end of this year. We have also reinitiated the recruitment for the jumping director and have already established the meetings for those that have been shortlisted. So this will begin for jumping, it will begin in December. So that would be important for you to know as well. I'd just like to take this opportunity really to thank those candidates that have put forward their applicancies for both endurance and jumping for your patience. Because as you know, we wanted to spend a little bit of time or have the possibility of doing these interviews online. However, due to the pandemic, we were not able to do so. But I have to say that the online interviewing has gone very well so far for endurance. So we expect to have the same positive success for jumping as well. And since I'm in a thanking mode right now as well, I also want to just take this opportunity as Secretary General to really thank the FEI board and the president and the members of the committees and the different calendar task force for all your support to us here at headquarters during the course of this year, for having accepted so many hundreds of online meetings that we had with you, which helped us better assist you delegates. So just a very brief, but really a heartfelt warmth. Thank you so much for everything. And I also have to thank our staff for being the most amazing staff I could ever hope for. And before I start shedding tears, let's move on to some drier matters. So we also have in your documents, we have the FEI Tribunal report, which has been established, by the new tribunal chair, Mr. Jose Rodriguez Alvarez. In your documents as well, you will find the Equestrian Community Integrity Unit. There's a report there too. You also will have in your documents under point 37, the World Horse Welfare Report. Here you'll have the 2020-2024 strategy of this important organization. And we've also, I don't know if you noticed, but we've also uploaded a video so that you can watch at your own leisure at home. So maybe I take a little breather here. We move on to the Sports Forum and the General Assembly, which is point 38. So for the General Assembly, if all goes well, and we certainly do hope so, we will all be meeting each other in person in South Africa next year. For the Sports Forum, now for the Sports Forum, we have set aside the dates of the 19th to the 20th of April 2021. We truly, truly, truly hope to be able to do this in person, to have this active dialogue with you in person. But if not, be sure we will hold one online as well. We have identified some major points that really need to be addressed and we really require your input. And those are the FEI jumping rules revision. It is time for a revision, so we will definitely be seeking out your thoughts on this way forward. Then another topic that has always been addressed and especially was brought up through the very important roundtable consultation jumping meeting that took place, I believe it was in 2018, is the necessity of having minimum requirements for FEI international events. There too, we've already begun sorting out the opinions of different technical committees, but we want your opinion as well. So we will also be addressing this at this very important sports forum. And then another item which we have always wanted to address and we haven't had the opportunity to do it yet is really the item about grooms. We know the importance of the role. We know how important they are for the welfare, for the integrity of the sport, and there again, we wish to present our thoughts to you and really get your feedback on the best way to move forward for our grooms. So that was for the Sports Forum and the General Assembly. And now for point 39, which is items raised by the national federations and within the statutory deadline. And we did not receive any items. So no items have been presented to you today. So ladies and gentlemen, this is your last chance to ask any questions. Please do it by raising your hand, including a comment in the chat. We're more than happy to address any queries you may have or address anything that you believe has not been properly discussed to this point. Huge thank you from all of us. And again, we know there's a bit of a delay. So I'm going to try and fill in the gaps while maybe you have the opportunity to raise your hand, and we look forward to seeing you next year. But again, here we are waiting for any questions that may arise. For the moment, it doesn't appear that anybody has asked any questions, but this may change. Okay, maybe just another 30 seconds or so. Bear with me. Okay, we're getting close. All right, ladies and gentlemen. I hope, thank you for bearing with me. And now I'm more than happy to pass the hand to our dear President, Mr. Igmar de Vos. Igmar, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Sabrina. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends and colleagues, thank you for being a part of this very first online General Assembly. Although it has gone smoothly, and I specifically would like to thank our technicians as well here as in London, this of course does not compare to an in-person General Assembly. I'm really looking forward to the next November when we hopefully can come together again and take the time to discuss and debate the challenges, the achievements, and the future of our sport. We made some important decisions today. I would like to take a moment to send my heartfelt thanks to all of the outgoing members from the technical committees and express my gratitude for your support and your expertise these past years, and especially the past few months, which have tested our sport and our systems at every level. I also would like to congratulate again the newly appointed members and wish them the same strength and perseverance as their predecessors. I would also like to express my sincere appreciation to the outgoing board members, to Mary Binks, Chair of Group 9, who has been a great ambassador for our sport in Africa and who has always clearly voiced her opinions on board and has never been afraid to ask the right question. Thank you so very much, Mary, and we are happy to see that you will continue, at least for a while, to support the newly elected chair of your regional group. To Brian Mangan, Chair of the Audit and Compliance Committee, thank you for your incredible contribution to the FEI and the FEI board for over more than a decade. Your commitment over the years has been vital for our structures and governance processes. You should be extremely proud of all you have achieved, and especially for the risk management of which today we collect the fruits. A special word of thanks also to John Eccles, who has been chair of the voting committee. You have clearly contributed to putting this discipline further on the map, and as a result of this, the chair position has now become a full FEI board member. I would like to make a particular mention for the outgoing Temporary Endurance Committee, and especially the chair, Tara Coombs, for their courage and determination when it came to identifying and tackling the real issues of this discipline, and with the creation of the new rules we approved last year to raise the sport to a new level and help forge a new path for endurance based upon the shared values of the global equestrian family. This is a true legacy they leave behind. I know I speak for the entire board when I say you all will be clearly missed. And now to the new incumbents. Congratulations with your election. You have not arrived at the easiest time, but I'm confident you have the skill set, determination, and the stamina to pick up where the outgoing members left off. It's a pleasure to have you on board, and I look forward to working closely with you and your teams in the future. I'm also very happy to see that our two vice presidents, Mark Samuel and Jack Hang, have been re-elected as chair of their respective regional group. This clearly demonstrates the trust your region and national federations have in you, and it's also a big relief for me that you will be able to continue as FEI vice presidents on my side. You have been fantastic team players, and I look forward to working with you as well in the future. Our governance structure rests on the great advice and wise counsel of a global community, and we are in debt to all of the volunteers who fill our committees, the FEI board and the FEI executive board. So thank you to all of you once again, and especially for all your hard work through these tough times. Now to the future. We have a lot to look forward to, and we also have a great legacy to preserve. With the Olympic and Paralympic Games in Tokyo coming up, we need to make sure that our sport is the shining light, what they are now calling the Games of Hope. We need to show how unique we are in the sporting landscape, from the incredible horsemanship in the arena to the inspired teamwork behind the scenes, making it all happen. There is no sport that compares to equestrian, and it's our responsibility and our duty to make sure we present the very best of who we are and what we are all about. From Tokyo to Paris to Los Angeles, we have to keep our finger on the pulse and deliver cutting-edge sport, from production to formats and rules. This is our mission. As you know, next year, we will also be celebrating 100 years of the FEI. We are a long way from 1921, when 8 founding members, Belgium, Denmark, France, Italy, Japan, Norway, Sweden, and the United States of America came together to organize the sport, formulate international rules and protocols. In the meantime, a lot has changed, but we have never been scared of a challenge. And together with all 137 affiliated national federation members, we can continue to set ambitious goals. In terms of what we stand for, I believe in recent years we have demonstrated that we are a sport that is committed to the future. And we have done this at many levels, from good governance to sustainability and digital engagement. We have solid foundations to continue building our sport and our fan base. 2020 was no different, and even though everything was up in the air, we continued to win awards and to be recognized as leaders in these fields. From the ASWAF Governance Review to the IOC DOE Awards. And when it comes to our value in the marketplace, with no live events and less possibility to engage with our fans or provide return to our sponsors, we had to act fast. And not only did we win awards for our content, we ensured that our sponsors and our community could remain connected. And by doing this, we were able to maintain a healthy digital footprint, which has become an important performance indicator also in the eyes of the International Olympic Committee when it comes to evaluating sports in future Olympic programs. The resilience, determination and passion over these past few months have been inspiring, and I'm grateful to everyone for their resourcefulness and ability to adapt. This has been a team effort. We have had to think out of the box, and we have had to be quick on our feet. And this is remarkable when you think about it. We are nearly 100 years old. So whoever said you can't teach an old dog new tricks was wrong. You can, and we are living proof. And last but not least, I would like to thank Sabrina Ibanez, FEI Secretary General, and the wonderful team at FEI headquarters for helping us weather the storm and ensure that we can continue to provide you, our members, and the greater community with the very best services in these difficult times. Sabrina, congratulations also on your recent appointment as chair of the ASWAF Diversity and Gender Equality Consultative Group for the successful integration of the Association of Paralympic Sports Organizations, which you are president of, within the Global Association of International Sports Federations. Once again, you have been the perfect master of ceremonies, making sure we are always on track and that everyone knows exactly what they should be doing and when. In the very same way, over the past few months, you have led the calendar task forces and the headquarters fearlessly, always ensuring we fulfill our remit with integrity and panache. We are a big team and a big FEI family. So one more time, thank you to everyone. And I look forward to seeing many of you in South Africa, and hopefully before in Tokyo, or maybe even in Lausanne for the FEI Sports Forum 2021. We shall see. Having said this, I now officially close the FEI General Assembly 2020. Thank you all very much. Goodbye. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay happy. Bye-bye.